Hi, everyone. Welcome to the channel. My name is Nick Cosgrove, and I am back with this week's No Filter Q&A. This is the episode where I answer questions related to training, supplementation, and dietary nutrition that I've received from our in-house clients, online clients, as well as a few of our online followers over the past 7 days. If you have any questions related to your workouts, your diet, supplements that you're taking, not taking, or considering taking, please feel free to email them to me at nick@foreverfitperformance.com. Or you can also send them to me on my Instagram, DM them to me at fitcosgrove_. And I'm always happy to answer any questions that I possibly can. Okay, so let's get to it. First question of this week's No Filter Q&A. Nick, I'm concerned that my breasts are going to become muscular if I train chest. Do you advise your female clients to refrain from training chest, or do you just keep the weights really light when training this area? I don't keep the weights light when I'm training any area. I always try to keep the weights moderately heavy and always ask my clients to give me at least 10 to 15 reps. It's a staple. I never go single digits. I always try to keep that rep range between 10 to 15. Occasionally, I'll go as high as 20 reps too, if I'm trying to warm somebody up. Now, when it comes to training chest, when it comes for women, I always do chest exercises with all my female clients. And I explain to them that working your chest is not going to make the area more muscular. It's not going to make the area smaller. It's actually going to help to keep things up, right? Men and women, we have similar chest structure, right? We both have pec major, we have pec minor, right? Those are muscle bellies that we both have. So when you train your chest, it's actually going to help keep things lifted. And I say this to the guys too. You don't want to be things headed down south when you get into your 40s and your 50s. So if anything, you actually should be training your chest. Now, I think what happens, there's a misconception with a lot of women. They think that if they do train their chest, it will get overly developed or overly muscular and it will get smaller. And I think the reason for that is because they see a lot of fitness competitors, whether they're bodybuilders, bikini girls, physique or fitness models, and they see that those bodies through on Instagram or in magazines, and they're overly developed and they're overly muscular. But you have to remember, and I'm not saying that every woman who competes is doing this, but a lot of women who compete do use anabolic steroids. And when you use anabolic steroids, whether you're using something like Anavar or testosterone, if you're using those steroids, yes, that's going to make you a little bit more muscular because you're using those compounds. And then you have some women who are just genetic freaks who compete on stage too. And they respond to just workouts that are very low intensity workouts and they put on muscle like crazy. So chances are, though, if you're not taking anabolic steroids and you're not a genetic freak, you're not going to get an overly muscular chest. Okay. I haven't seen that with any of my female clients that I've been working with for the past 15 plus years, not a single one. So if anything, I would train your chest, and I wouldn't train your chest light. I would train your chest as heavy as you possibly can, staying in that rep range of 10 to 15. If you want to do maybe a warm-up set of 20 reps, go for it. And I would also focus on doing a lot of incline work. So whether that's incline dumbbell, incline barbell, and even some low incline dumbbell fly. So you're making sure you're working both pec major and pec minor. So by all means, please train your chest. Do not negate training that muscle group. And I promise you, you're going to look silly if you don't train your chest. All right, next question. Nick, do you have any tips to help make my biceps bigger? I'm currently training them twice a week and doing barbell curls, alternating dumbbell curls, and preacher machine curls. 12 sets for each workout. So the first thing I would do is stop training your biceps twice a week. I would take that workout down to once a week. The second thing I would do I'd add a little bit more variety to that workout. So rather than doing 2 bicep workouts, put one bicep workout together and add a little bit more volume to that one workout, but only do it once a week. So a good bicep routine off the top of my head, just to make sure that we're working both the long head and the short head of the biceps, would be straight barbell curls like you're doing. I would even throw in some easy bar curls because we got to remember the easy bar is a nice cambered bar. So you're going to work more of that short head of the bicep, get a little bit more of that peak contraction. I noticed you're doing alternating dumbbell curls. So what I would recommend doing is instead of doing alternating dumbbell curls, I would actually try doing curls up against the wall where you keep your elbows against the wall and try doing dumbbell curls this way. Okay. As opposed to doing alternating dumbbell curls where you're doing this. Because the problem I see when people are doing alternating dumbbell curls in the gym is when they start doing this, what are they doing? Yeah, they're using a bit of their bicep, but they're also recruiting their anterior deltoid and their medial deltoid to help swing that weight up. So take the shoulder out of the equation, keep your elbow back against the wall, and just keep the curls going up so it's going to chest level. I promise you, if you do this, you're going to feel your biceps like you've never felt them before. That's 3 exercises right there. And I would finish up the workout with some rope hammer cable curls to work the inner portion of the bicep brachialis. And, you know, rope hammer cable curl, keep that rope together, the handles together, coming up like this. Big mistake I see when people do hammer curls in the gym, they take the cable curl up and they split the handles at the top. Don't do that. Keep the handles together so we keep constant tension on the brachialis. You're going to get better results. And as a 5th exercise, what I would throw in, either some unilateral cable curls, or I would get rid of the preacher machine curls. I really don't like machines. And I would throw in some unilateral dumbbell preacher curls. And you can even do that just on an incline bench. You don't necessarily need a preacher bench for that. It does help if you have a preacher bench. But what I'll do sometimes with clients, I'll just get them to do it on an incline bench, and I'll get them to do one arm at a time. So 12 to 15 reps one arm, 12 to 15 reps the other arm. Any unilateral work though, I usually save that for the end of the workout. So do your compound lifts at the beginning, your barbell curls, your easy bar curls, your dumbbell curls, and save your isolateral movements or unilateral movements for the end of the workout. Okay. And that should help bring up that area. But I definitely would recommend taking the volume down to once a week and increasing the volume though in that one workout. Okay. All right. Next question. Hi, Nick. I'm fairly new to resistance training. I was wondering how much rest time I should take in between sets. I see some people taking longer rest periods while others very short. Is there an ideal amount of rest time to take in between sets? Okay, so when it comes to rest periods, I don't time rest periods. I don't time my own rest periods. I don't time my clients' rest periods. What I do is I always tell people to go on how they feel. So when you're training, especially if you're doing, let's say, basic straight set, for example, where you do a set, you rest, set, rest, set, rest. I always tell people, okay, when you're doing your sets, you should go do your next set when you're at about 70% recovered, okay? And that's how you feel. So obviously, if you're someone who's completely new to weights, your 70% recovered might take a little longer than someone who's been training for 10 to 15 years, like myself. I know my rest periods, I don't time my rest periods, but if I were to guess, 45 seconds to a minute max if I'm doing basic straight set. Now, if I'm doing circuit training with my clients, which I usually do at my private facility, I'll have them do 4 to 5 exercises in a row with no rest in between. And then I'll tell them, okay, go grab some water, take a few seconds rest and come back. And generally what happens then is they'll come back when they feel at about, again, that 70% recovered. And for most people, that's about a minute, sometimes 90 seconds. If I'm giving a group class a killer leg workout, sometimes that might be 2 minutes, but that's after they're doing 3 or 4 stations or sometimes 6 stations in a row with no rest in between. But if you're doing basic straight set, don't worry about the clock. Just focus on how you feel. Don't get caught up on cruising. I've said this before. Do not take out your phone in between sets and start cruising Instagram and looking at Facebook and taking selfies. Because what happens then is your 45-second to 1 minute rest period turns into a 5-minute rest period, right? What you should be doing is focusing on your next set. And say, okay, how do I feel? Am I ready to go? If you feel like you're only at 20% recovered, don't go just yet because you're going to have sloppy form and you're not going to get as many reps and then you risk injury. If you go when you're 100% recovered, well, you're not going to recruit new muscle fibers. So you're not going to do anything. You might build a little bit of strength, but you're not going to build actually any muscle from doing that, right? That's how powerlifters train, and powerlifters are strong, but aesthetically speaking, they don't look that great, right? I mean, so if you're training for aesthetics, I would try to keep those rest periods short, but rather than look at the clock, go by how you feel internally and try to go at about 70% recovered. If you do that, you'll see results. All right, next question. Hey, Nick, what are some of the biggest mistakes you made with your training and your diet when you first started to work out? I made a lot of mistakes when I first started to work out. When I first started training, I was 15 years old. We had the internet, but I didn't have the internet. So I didn't have access to a whole lot of training information. I used the Arnold Schwarzenegger's Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding to help me through my training and my diet, which probably in some ways it was good, but in some ways it wasn't the best because it was a little outdated. And when it came to working out in the gym, I was grossly overtrained. I was probably actually taking the advice that Arnold had put in his book and I was doubling it. So I would spend sometimes 2-3 hours in the gym training the same muscle group. And what happened would be I would finish the workout and I would be really sore. But I think what happened because I overtrained the muscle bellies, they didn't have time to recover. I'd go back to the gym, I'd do it the next day, the exact same workout. So I would do the same workout routine over and over again. And what I noticed was I actually didn't get any results. And I felt like I was always run down. I got sick and I was constantly sore. So it wasn't until I was very fortunate because I actually trained at a gym that was full of bodybuilders. So what I started to do was ask the bodybuilders around me, like, well, what are you doing? Because you guys look great. And these guys were in their 50s. I mean, they look fantastic. And they tell me, well, it's not about how long you spend in the gym, it's what you do in the gym. So what would take me sometimes 2 to 3 hours to do, they were doing in like 50 minutes because they were training quick, intense, get in, get out. And that's how I train now. I don't do any work. None of my workouts are ever longer than 45, 50 minutes. That's it. I'm in and out of that gym, 50 minutes tops. But when I'm in the gym, I'm focused and I'm training hard, balls to wall. I don't rest very long. And I constantly try to increase my weights as much as I can while keeping my form good. So I think that was the biggest mistake I made in the gym when I first started was I overtrained, did way too much volume for one particular muscle group, way too much time in the gym. And yeah, I didn't see any results. So luckily after the first probably about 6 to 8 months of training, the gym helped me out and I corrected that right away. Unfortunately though, when it came to diet, they didn't know much about diet and I didn't really ask them much about diet. And back then my diet consisted of frosted flakes in the morning. And then I would go the whole day without eating. And then around 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, I might have a couple of slices of pizza or maybe a burger and fries. I didn't know anything about training. So again, if I could go back in time, that would be the main thing I would fix would be my diet more than my training. Because if I knew then what I know now about diet, I would have made way, way better results. Diet really is key. So when it comes to the biggest mistakes I made was not cleaning up my diet, not eating more food, not consuming more clean calories from protein, not learning more about post-workout nutrition, pre-workout nutrition. And when it came to training, it was overtraining. I grossly overtrained the muscle groups and I paid for it. Didn't see any results. So now what I've learned over the years is take your duration in the gym down, up your intensity, consume good, wholesome foods, get results. All right. Next question. Okay, so this is a funny question. Is giving dietary and fitness advice a masquerade concealing your true overwhelming and compulsive desire to micromanage as many people as possible? No, I am not here to micromanage people. I am not trying to have everyone follow the same training program or diet plan that I follow. I only give advice and my opinions to those that ask. Okay. I train at a gym where people pay me for my services. They pay me for my expertise. So of course I'm going to give them my advice. If they don't ask for my advice on their diet, I don't give it. If I am working with someone though in the gym, whether it's one-on-one or in a small group class or in a partner session, I will of course ask them. I'm saying, well, if I notice that they're sluggish in the gym, I'll say, well, what did you eat this morning? And if they tell me, oh, well, I had 2 pieces of white toast and a fried egg and butter, I'll say, well, that's why you feel like shit. And I'll explain to them, you know, if they want to actually have a good, intense workout, I'll tell them this is what you should be eating. You know, and a meal like that, I might say, well, take the white toast out, substitute it with 2 slices of Ezekiel bread, for example. And you don't need to cook eggs and butter. That's ridiculous. Eggs cook in their own fat. And right there, you've got a good, healthy fats and good carbohydrate breakfast right there, right? Good complex carbs. That's an example. I only give advice if I'm asked. When it comes to training, same thing. I've seen a lot of people in the gym over the years doing some crazy shit in the gym where I'm like, they're going to get injured. Sometimes they do get injured while I'm watching them and I bite my tongue. I don't say anything because again, they're not asking for my advice. So I don't give unsolicited advice. I have a lot of clients that work with me in the gym. They train really hard, but their diets are not the best. I leave them alone. I might bug them a little bit about it, give them a little bit of a guilt trip, but I never tell them you have to eat like this. They're enjoying their life. Let them. If they want to have a drink once or twice a week, or they want to drink every day, or they want to have pizza every day and they want to have burgers every day and they're happy, great. The only thing I can do is advise them on the right path, what I'd recommend they do, but they don't want to take my advice, that's fine. As far as people who are not my clients, no, I don't offer my opinion. I don't offer my advice. So no, I don't want to micromanage anybody or change anyone's eating habits or the way they train unless they ask for my opinion. All right, next question. Hi, Nick. What do you recommend your clients? Oh, sorry. Hi, Nick. When do you recommend your clients stretch? Before, after, or during their workouts? I'm getting conflicting messages from different sources and was wondering when you recommend to stretch. So with stretching, there's two types of stretching, right? You have static stretching and dynamic stretching. Now, static stretching, I usually recommend clients do that at the end of a workout, right? Because what are you doing when you stretch a muscle? You're taking it into a state of relaxation. So you don't want to take a muscle into a state of relaxation before you're going to stimulate it with a lot of sets and a lot of reps, a heavy volume workout, right? That's the last thing you want to do, because then what happens is you risk a tear, a pull, a serious injury. Now, dynamic stretching is a little bit different. Dynamic stretching is obviously stretching where you're creating movement. So whether that's like rotating your shoulders back and forth, or you just moving your rhomboids a little bit, or moving your arms, or just getting synovial fluid pumping through your joints, that can be done pre-workout, no problem. That can even be done intra-workout as well, in between sets. But I would not recommend doing any static stretching in between sets or before a workout, because then you risk injury. So a good rule of thumb, save your static stretching at the end of a workout, put your dynamic stretching at the beginning of a workout. And if you're still feeling tight throughout the workout, feel free to include a few more dynamic stretches in between sets. But I would not advise anyone to do static stretching in between sets during your workout. Save the static stretching for post-workout, okay? And again, what I recommend doing is too, when you say you train legs, for example, at the end of that workout, do a few quad stretches, hamstring stretches, stretch out your calves, make sure you get gastrocnemius and your soleus. It doesn't have to be long, maybe 5-10 minutes of stretching, but I promise you that's going to make a huge difference. One of the things I've been recommending to a lot of our clients, I'm going to do a shameless plug in here, but is working with Charlene. Charlene's incredible for what she's doing with the yoga sessions right now. And I've noticed a huge difference of a lot of the clients who've worked with her on their mobility and the flexibility in the gym. That's created a huge difference for a lot of people that I work with who have problems with, say, doing a bench press, getting the bar all the way down, or squatting all the way down. So they do a few sessions with Charlene, they come see me, and wow, their range of motion is so much better. So that's the other thing I'd recommend doing, is booking a few stretching yoga sessions in. That makes a huge difference, okay? And if you are looking for someone to work with that you needs a little bit help with your stretching and some yoga sessions, I would definitely recommend contacting Charlene, okay? And I'm going to definitely plug her in here because I think she's great at what she does. And I see a difference with a lot of my clients that have worked with her already. All right, next question. Hey, Nick, do you diet your fighters you work with different from your bodybuilding clients? Okay, so when I diet people, I don't like to use the word diet, but when I create a customized nutritional plan for the person I'm working with, there's a lot of factors I look at. One would be lifestyle, 2 would be their goals, 3 would be their gender, 4 would be their age. What if I'm working with someone who has different allergies to different foods? If I'm working with someone who has Crohn's, colitis, any sort of IBS issues. So there's a lot of factors taken into consideration, but for the most part, I like to stick with certain food groups because I find if I add too much variety to a plan, I don't like variables, and I don't like to think, okay, well, what's the problem here? What do I have to take out? So there's certain food groups that I'll keep in the plan. Now, if I'm working with a fighter versus a bodybuilder, I'll usually use those same food groups, but how I diet them is a little bit differently, especially leading up to their event. If I'm working with a fighter, for example, well, a fighter needs to have performance, a performance to fight. A bodybuilder or a fitness girl or a bikini girl doesn't need to have performance. They're being judged on their physique. They need to go on stage and they need to pose. I've done it. It's not that difficult to do. Fighting, on the other hand, is a lot different. You need to be on your A game. You need to perform. So if I'm working with, say, a middleweight who needs to make weight for a fight, let's say they're getting ready for an MMA fight or jiu-jitsu, and I need to get them to drop 5 pounds before a fight on Saturday, their weigh-ins on Friday. What I'll typically do with a person like that, I'll slowly decrease their carbs as we go into the fight, just so they make that weigh-in on Friday night. And then after they make that weigh-in, I'll start loading up their carbs again, just so they have that energy for the next day. I'll do generally the same thing with a bodybuilder, but with a bodybuilder, the only difference I'll usually do with a bodybuilder is I will drop their water as well. Whereas with the fighter, I'll keep their water pretty stable throughout the week. Maybe for a Friday night weigh-in, I might get them just to sip on water throughout the day, but after that weigh-in, I'll get them to chug back water because I need those muscles nice and hydrated. So it depends on, the person you're working with. But for the most part, I will, again, I don't like to use the word, but I will diet a fighter and a bodybuilder similar with same food groups. But when it comes to the macronutrient rotations, it's completely different, especially towards as we get closer to their event. Okay, because you have to remember, one is being judged purely on how they look. The other one has to perform. So you can't feed those two athletes the exact same, right? So that's again where it comes into having a good coach who's experienced, who has worked with lots of people and knows different body types. I could be working with someone who's an ectomorph and someone who's an endomorph. So I have to know how to troubleshoot and get that person ready for that event, right? So that's where it comes down to working with a good coach who's got an eye. So do I diet a bodybuilder and a fighter the same? For the most part, yes, for the same food groups. But when it comes to macronutrient rotation, no, absolutely not. All right, next question. Hi, Nick. How come you don't post any videos of your self-trained clients online? I know a lot of trainers do this and was wondering why you don't. I've spoken about this before. So I don't like seeing trainers videotaping their clients, or sorry, I should say recording, nobody videotapes, recording their clients with their phones in the gym. I think it's incredibly unprofessional. I think it's tacky. I don't like it. That person is paying you good money for an hour or 45 minutes, half an hour of your time. So when someone is paying me good money for my time, I'm going to give them my undivided attention. I'm not going to take out my phone and shove it in their face, right? And say, okay, do a set because I want to post this on my Instagram for marketing purposes. I think it's incredibly tacky. I don't like it. Now, if the client is a social media influencer, or maybe they want you to do this for their Instagram, fine. And if they want to tag me, I have no problem with that. I'll even share it in my stories. I have no problem being on social media. But I work with a lot of people who aren't even on social media, or they want to keep their private life private. I have some clients who are lawyers. I have 2 clients who are doctors. They're not on Instagram. They're not on Facebook. And they don't want the world knowing what they're doing in the gym. What if you're working with someone who is a little bit self-conscious of their body? If you're working with someone who's overweight, they don't want a camera phone being shoved in their face while they're doing squats. So that client has a right to their privacy. And I don't think as a trainer or as any professional, you should be taking out your camera phone and recording them so you can upload it on your Instagram just for your own marketing purposes. And I also have a problem with with trainers asking their clients, hey, are you okay if I film you? Let's face it, most people are going to say, yeah, I guess it's okay, because they want to appease their trainer. They don't want to make their trainer feel uncomfortable. But I guarantee you there's a lot of people that do not feel comfortable with having that phone shoved in their face. And I can tell you from personal experience, even though I don't mind being on social media, there's many times that I've been recorded doing workouts just for my own marketing purposes. And I don't like it. I find it very distracting. I hate it. But for my business, I know it actually does help. So I don't mind recording myself doing a workout. But I have issues with recording clients. And like I said, I have put videos of clients in my stories. I don't really put them on my Instagram, because what happens is they'll tag me and I'll share it for sure. It's great marketing for me. By all means, yes, it is. But what I prefer to do is with my clients is I say, hey, you know what? If you're happy with the services and you like me as your coach / trainer, I'd really appreciate a testimonial for a website or a Google review. That to me is fantastic. And I think that's great. But I don't like the whole sticking the phone in someone's face while they're working out. So I think trainers that film their clients working out in the gym with their cell phones, I think it's unprofessional. I think it's tacky, and I won't ever do it. I won't. Maybe I'm old school, but I just won't do it. It's not my style. Like I said, if I have clients that ask me to do it for them, I will, and I'll share it on my Instagram if they tag me, but I'm not going to ever do it for my own marketing purposes. Absolutely not. All right. Next question. Nick, I can't feel my rear delts contracting when I train them. I do seated bent over rear delt flies, but only feel my arms, especially my triceps, whenever I train them. Any advice on what I can do to train this area better? That's a really good question. And I'll tell you why, because most people I see that train their rear delts train them incorrectly. They recruit way too much lats, way too much traps, and they don't actually isolate the posterior deltoids. And like this person is doing is a bent over rear delt fly. And I see a lot of people doing that. And what happens is as you get tired doing a bent over rear delt fly, what's the first thing that happens? Your body starts to come up, right? And then you lose that contraction in your posterior deltoids. Because if you want your posterior deltoids to contract properly, you have to be staying parallel to the floor at all times. So what I came up with this probably about 12, 15 years ago, was I noticed that was a problem for a lot of people I was working with, is their bodies would start to rise when they would do rear delt flies. So what I did was I had them go on an incline bench and I would put the incline bench at about 110 degrees. I would have them bend over and put their forehead on the top of that bench. So they're still bent over, but now they're keeping their forehead on the top of that bench. And I say, keep your forehead on the bench the entire set. I don't want to see your forehead come off that bench. What happens is when they get to that 12, 13, 14 reps, when their body naturally wants to come up because they're fatiguing, they're staying parallel to the floor because I said, keep your forehead on the bench. And what happens is they're constantly contracting their rear delts. So they feel their rear delts much more. Another problem I see with people doing rear delt flies is they come out and then what happens is they extend their elbow. And when you do that, what's going to happen? You're going to contract your tricep. So I always tell people, keep your rear delt flies just like your chest flies. Visualize like you're doing a bear hug, but you're doing a reverse bear hug. So you're keeping your elbow slightly bent the whole way through. You should never, ever extend your arm out when you're doing any fly, ever. There's no reason to. Your elbow should stay in a fixed position the entire time, like a hook, just like that, okay? And the third thing I'd recommend when you're doing your rear delts, go light. Rear delts, if you look at the posterior deltoid on an anatomy chart, it's actually a very small muscle group. So you don't need to use incredibly heavy weight. Save your heavy weight for your back exercises. Rear delts, I'll tell you for myself personally, I don't use heavier than 25-pound dumbbells when I'm contracting my rear delts. Because I do it properly, I squeeze the muscle and I always come back down and I use good form. Okay. Now, if I start using momentum, yeah, I could probably do 50-pound dumbbells, but I won't be contracting my posterior deltoids. I'll be using my lats and my traps again. So you always have to think of the muscle you're trying to stimulate, and you have to think, okay, how am I going to do this efficiently? How am I going to execute this movement efficiently? And when it comes to rear delts, those are the three things I'd recommend. Keep that bench at 110 degrees, keep your elbows in a fixed position, and go light on the weight. I guarantee you're going to feel that way more than if you go heavy, bent over with no bench, using sloppy form, extending your arm. You're not going to feel anything. All right. Okay, last question. Hi, Nick, who are your top 5 picks for this year's Arnold Classic and Men's Open? Well, bodybuilding question. I'll be honest, I haven't really been staying updated on the Open Men's Bodybuilding these past few months. I do know who's in the show this coming weekend. So for those that don't know, the Arnold Classic is a bodybuilding show hosted by Arnold Schwarzenegger. It's been going on, I believe, since 1989. And now the show is much bigger. I believe when it first started, it was just bodybuilding only. And now they have fitness, physique, figure, bikini, all these classes, which is great. It's allowed the sport to grow. And it's always held in Columbus, Ohio. And I believe, yeah, it's this weekend. So with Men's Open Bodybuilding, I had a look over who's competing this weekend. And I had a look at some of the photos on Instagram. And I'll tell you right now who my top pick is, who's going to win this show. I think it's going to be Brandon Curry. He's won this show before. He's a former Mr. Olympia. I saw a photo of him this morning. I was blown away. He looks amazing. Of course, everyone looks different on Instagram than they do on stage, but he looks phenomenal. So I really think Brandon Curry is going to take the show. And if I were to give my other 4 spots out, I would say I would put William Bonac in second. I like this new guy, Brett Wilkins. It's Brett Wilkin or Brett Wilkins. I saw a photo of him. I don't know much about him. I believe he's being trained by Matt Jenkins, and he is another guy to watch. He looks dangerous, young guy, but I'd put him in third. And 4th and 5th could go either way between Steve Kuklo and Regan Grimes. I'm a big Steve Kuklo fan. He's been around for a while. He always looks great for the Arnold Classic whenever he's competed. So I think he's going to take it. He's got that muscle maturity as well. He's been training for a long time. And then so I put him in 4th place, and as 5th place, I'd give it to Regan Grimes. And again, that can go either way. And Regan Grimes, I believe, is Canadian. So a good Canadian boy, young guy too. He's got a good future for sure. I saw some photos of him. He looks phenomenal. I believe he's training with Milo Sarchev now. So he looks really good. And I know he did a tour. I think he did a European tour back in, I think it was in this November, December of last year. And he was winning some shows. So he looks pretty dangerous as well. So those would be my top 5. Again, I'd say Brandon Curry, 1st place, William Bonac, 2nd place, Brett Wilkins in 3rd place, Steve Kuklo 4th, and I would put Regan Grimes in 5th. And like I said, 4th and 5th, they can go either way because Regan Grimes is looking crazy. So you never know. He could beat out Kuklo. Anyway, guys, that's it for this week's Q&A. This show should be up on Thursday night. And remember, if you do have any questions related to dietary nutrition, training, or supplementation, feel free to email them to me at nick@foreverfitperformance.com, or you can send them to me on Instagram at @fitcosgrove_. Guys, thanks so much for watching. And again, if you enjoy the content, please like and subscribe to the channel. It makes me happy and it gives me more motivation to do this every week. Okay, guys, thanks very much and have a great night. Thank you very much, guys. Bye for now.